So today we're going to look at student search scenarios. Now, normally what I do in this is we get in small groups. I put a scenario on the board. You guys discuss them in groups, think if the search is okay or not. Write out your reasonings why. Then we talk about it as a full class and move on. A little harder to do it this way, but I want you to think through these cases. So let's do a quick review from yesterday when it comes to student search cases. The TLO case, the Supreme Court said that students have Fourth Amendment rights in school, but they can be searched by school officials if the school official has reasonable suspicion. A school official, like myself or the administrator, a teachers, administrators, whatever, uh, don't need probable cause to search a student, but they need reasonable suspicion. But they also said that searches cannot be excessively intrusive in light of the age and sex of the student and the nature of the infraction. If a police officer, if Officer Lingen is going to search you, then Officer Lingen would need probable cause. So I have some scenarios. I want you to think them through a little bit. And we'll see if we think this search is legal or not. I made these scenarios up, though some of them have probably happened already. Okay, so the first scenario, police do a drug dog sniff of cars in a high school parking lot. They get a hit on a car. Police search the car, finding marijuana. The student was arrested. Now, pause this for a second and think it through. How would you answer this? And then I'll tell you what I believe. Okay, so hopefully you're back from pausing it now. All right, this one should be one of the easier ones. We kind of talked about this if you watched the notes yesterday. Your car parked, or this student's car parked in the parking lot. Well, there's no expectation of privacy in the air around the car. So the drug dog didn't search the car. The drug dog was sniffing the air around the car, in which the student does not have an expectation of privacy. When the drug dog got a hit, that gives police probable cause to search the car. That this is a perfectly legal search. Okay, scenario 2 is a book bag left in the commons after school. A janitor opened the book bag and found a handgun along with papers that identified the owner of the book bag. The student was arrested for having a gun in the school. Okay, pause the video and think about it. Okay, now what do we think on this one? Probably this search is not okay. The janitor, even though he's working probably in good faith, probably was just trying to figure out whose book bag it was. When he found the guns and then turned it over to police, all of a sudden it becomes an issue of, well, was this evidence found legally or not? The janitor could have taken the book bag to a lost and found. I don't think there was any reason for the janitor to go through that, even though the janitor was probably working in good faith. I don't think there was a reason for the janitor to go through the book bag. Now, this may change if that book bag had been left there for a long period of time. If that book bag had been left there for a week or 2 weeks, or let's say this whole coronavirus thing is going on, and school was, canceled the way it was, and there was a book bag sitting there, is that abandoned property? And you don't have an expectation of privacy in abandoned property. So it may depend on the length of time in which the book bag was there. If it was there one night after a normal school day, where the student maybe could pick it up the next day, is different than if it had been left there and weeks had gone on and school was in session and no one picked it up. So most likely this search is not okay. All right, our third scenario. A cell phone rings during class. The teacher asks for the phone, and the student takes the phone out of the bag and gives it to the teacher. The teacher looks at the recent calls to determine who the call came from. Was the search of the student's phone in this scenario okay? All right, pause the video and think it through. All right, now that you're back, in this particular case, I would think the search of the phone is not okay. The student did violate school rules, so the phone could be taken away. But the nature of the infraction in this one, well, what was going on? Well, the student really forgot to shut the phone off. That's their only infraction. They weren't actually texting anybody, they weren't making a call, they didn't answer the call. So the only thing that the student did wrong was they forgot to put the phone on mute. That's a pretty small infraction. There's no reason to believe there's anything in that phone that is illegal or violating school rules. So taking the phone away is okay, but the search of the phone was not legal. Scenario 4. A teacher is following Twitter and sees a student is setting up a drug sale to be done at school. The tweet said, "Be in the locker room, 5th hour, with money for weed." Based on that information, the male student was searched by a male principal when he came to school the following day. The search revealed marijuana in the pockets of his jeans. Was this search legal? Pause the video, think it through, and when you're ready, play again. All right, this one is a legal search, I believe. First of all, Twitter is a public platform. There's no reasonable expectation of privacy on Twitter. You can't expect the things that you put on social media to be private. People retweet them. There's no expectation of privacy here. The tweet was specific about a drug sale being done in the school and the location of the school. That's reasonable suspicion at the very least. The student was searched by a administrator of the same sex. I think everything in this search is legal. So this was a legal and just search. Scenario 5. A student was caught texting during a test. The teacher took the phone away. The teacher then read the text that were sent and received during class. The texts indicate that the student is sending questions from the test to a student in another section. Both students were punished. Was this search okay? Pause the video, think it through. Now that you're back, let's talk about this one a little bit. I think in this case, the search was okay. Now, the scenario we looked at earlier, the search of the phone was not, but the circumstances are different here. In this particular case, the student is actually texting in class, but also texting during a test, and I think that's the main focus here. Let's say that you are on your phone and you're texting and it's in the middle of a lecture or something like that. I don't think that gives the teacher the reason to search through your text of your phone. Taking the phone away is fine, but searching the text, reading those texts, crosses the line. But during a test, that's different. Let's give an example here. Let's say that you're taking your test, and let's say that underneath, you keep lifting up your computer and looking at something underneath your computer. I'm going over there and I'm going to look at what you're looking at. I'm going to lift up your computer, and if there's a piece of paper there, I'm going to take that piece of paper because it might be a cheat sheet. Or if you handed a piece of paper from to somebody nearby during a test, I'm going to take that paper and look at it. And it may be something like completely unrelated. It might be something like, what are you doing after school? But it might also be, what's the answer to number 7? During a test, those things make a difference because cheating is a pretty serious infraction of the rules. So because these texts were being sent and received during a test, I think the search of the text, at least these texts that were being sent during that particular class period, would be fine. If there was not a test going on, if it was a regular class, then the search of those texts would not be okay because there is no reason to believe that you're breaking any rule other than just the texting itself rule. But texting during a test, there's a belief that you may be breaking a more serious rule of the school, which would be, academic dishonesty. All right, next scenario. A student is caught texting in class and the teacher takes away the phone. The cla- After class, the teacher looks through the pictures and videos on the phone and finds pictures and videos that clearly show the student consuming alcohol at a party the previous weekend. Because the student is in football, the student was suspended. Was this legal? Pause it, think it through, and then come back. Kind of how we talked about in the last one, I do not believe that this search is legal. The fact that the student was texting is reason enough to take the phone away. It is not reason enough to look through the videos uh, or pictures of that. Now, these are all scenarios. A lot of these scenarios deal with texting, and if you notice, it really makes a difference on the situation around it, the scenarios around it, the facts around each particular one. So you can't say like, oh, a teacher can never take look at the text sent or video sent by a student. That's not always true. It depends on the circumstances around it. You know, if a student had been making threats in school and someone said, you know, they videotaped a threat that they made to me, well, looking through the video of that phone may be absolutely okay. So the scenario or the situation around these really does make a difference. Scenario 7. Teacher's grading papers at his desk as the students are working in a study hall. A phone goes off, and when the teacher looks up, sees a student quickly reach into a bag, and the rating stops. The teacher asks for the phone, but the student refuses, so the teacher takes the bag and searches it. No phone is found, but a note threatening another student was. The student was disciplined for the note. Pause this, think about it, come back. This one's a more difficult one. First of all, I think the teacher does have reasonable suspicion to go get the phone. If having a phone in school is illegal, you know, against the school rules, and the teacher has reason to believe that that student had the phone. So when the teacher asks for the phone and the student refuses, the teacher searches the bag. I think the teacher could probably search the bag for the phone because there's reasonable suspicion that the phone's in there. The way the student acted after the phone went off and so on. But he wasn't caught for the phone. The issue was the threat. And I think a lot of it depends on, was this in plain view or not? If the teacher opened up the book bag looking for the phone and sitting right there on the top, open up in big letters that the teacher could see, was that threatening note, then I think that taking the note would have been okay. However, if the teacher saw this piece of paper, it was folded up in an envelope, they opened it up and read it, it wasn't in plain view. There's no way the phone was in that envelope. You could feel the weight of it. And it wasn't, there was no reason to believe the phone was in there, then the reading of the note would not be okay. So a lot of it depends on really where the note was and how visible the wording of the note was when the teacher opened up that book bag. Now, hopefully, by looking at these scenarios, it gives you a better idea about Fourth Amendment stuff, at least when it comes to school. A lot of what is important is the context around it. You can never say, oh, this search is legal or this search is illegal, either in school or by law enforcement, based on just a simple fact. You really need all the facts around it. You know, if a police officer pulls somebody over for speeding, can they search their car? Well, the general answer is no. But what if they smell marijuana? Well, then the answer is yes. The circumstances around the search are always very, very, very important. All right. Hopefully, this was helpful to you.